Hello, 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 everybody. First session of a long game that we're going to do here. The long game is and will be the name of our podcast by me, Patricia Szriftgiser. And I picked the long game for whatever you will see are the reasons. I will explain. And the subtitle, Psychology, Endurance, and the Practice of Being Human. I may say sometimes the practice of being human, and sometimes I will go with the art of being human, which is what I think. It's a practice and it's an art. Being said, I'm going to do the intro. And the introduction of this is, and I'm going to read and pause and talk to you and then read. It's my guide. This is my guideline. I picked 3 elements that I will be integrating along the way. 1, mental health. It's an active practice. That is how I see it for the longest time that I'm practicing. There is intention, responsibility, choice, repetition, endurance. And not just awareness. That is how I see the psyche. It's not only awareness or mindfulness. It's all of the above. The second element to integrate will be, or is, the body is a psychological instrument. Our body is a psychological instrument. So then, as a psychological instrument, we integrate training, racing, fatigue, pain, consistency, discipline, failure. The psyche reveals itself under load. So is the body, in my opinion. The third element that is to integrate is generational and cultural context. And to that, I think that it's important to address the changes. Let's confess, I'm a baby boomer by 1 year, but I am. And I want to get access to all of you across the board, super young till the end. For that, we all are witnessing the changes. So I would like to address why anxiety looks different today, why or how culture shapes psyche, and how generations process identity, effort, and resiliency differently. These 3 elements that I really want to integrate are crucial in how I want to do this podcast. And again, that was just the introduction. I will go now to episode 1. Okay, so we'll dive now into episode 1. And yes, I will be introducing myself in a few seconds or in a few minutes. So why healing is a long game? And here it is, in my opinion. After more than 42 years working in psychology and a lifetime committed to be an endurance athlete, I've come to understand something that it's both simple and difficult to accept. Change does not happen quickly. It takes years. I want to introduce a side note here about something my first coach for Ironman, as we start training, told me then. And he said to me something in the lines of, if you expect to be an Uber athlete next year, I have to warn you, it's not going to happen. What will happen is that it will take us 10 years, he said, 10 years to build the endurance machine that you could be. He didn't give me the you are, you want to be, that you could be. So that was pretty much a reality check from the get-go. Was very helpful because it put my expectations, which we'll talk down the line about expectations. I personally think that expectations is the killer of many, many things in personal goal setting or relationships, most of the type of expectations, but we'll work on that. So that aligned my expectations with results, aligned the time, the pacing of everything. But we'll touch upon this later. And yes, took 10 years, give or take, for me to perform to the level that was considered competitive and international competitions. So this is why the long game across the board for me. We live in a culture that promises transformation through insight, motivation, or the right technique. But really psychological growth, the kind that reshapes how we relate, how we endure difficulty, and how we live, happens slowly, through patience, through practice, through repetition, and a lot of honesty. Much like endurance training, mental health is not a moment. It is a relationship with ourselves over time. Loved it. In this podcast, I want to explore what it really truly takes to heal, to grow, and to live with intention. Not by escaping our limitations, but with understanding them, working with them, and gradually expanding to what is possible. This is not about shortcuts, definitely not in my watch. No shortcuts. This is about the long game. Now, the long game, mental health is not passive. It is not something we achieve through awareness alone. It is intentional, embodied practice shaped by our relationships, our discipline, our early experiences that shape us, but we don't need nor want to be prisoner of, and how we meet challenge over time. And now, who am I? I'm Patricia Szriftgiser, a psychotherapist and psychoanalyst with over 40 decades of experience and a lifelong endurance athlete. In the long game, I explore how we overcome the limitations shaped by upbringing, culture, and self-imposed beliefs, our belief system. Through psychology, honest reflection, and the lessons that come from consistency and endurance. Through solo reflections and conversations with thoughtful experts, this podcast is a space for depth, healing, and the kind of motivation that lasts. Becoming yourself is not a quick fix, it's the long game. Now, more in this episode 1, the illusion of quick change. And I want to address the difference between insight and transformation. We need the inside. We need to do inside. We need to work through each between sessions when we meet for our psychotherapy. We need to work on every thought that crosses our mind, and we want to dissect, we want to work on that. But then it's not just the inside. We want the transformation coming after we do inside. And transformation is acting on the changes, the things that we are thinking, on the things that we want to accomplish. So that would be one element in the core section. The second element is where psychology meets endurance. We can talk forever, and that is probably what this podcast will provide you, tools across the board, a lot of them. So techniques that we have to use, do, learn, practice in endurance sports, and I believe obviously in any sport, is resistance, repetition, frustration, setbacks, humility, dedication, patience. We will do a little bit of a parallel with the therapeutic work and change. These are a few. I can name a little bit more. If we are talking about a solo sport, like, when you are a runner, that's your sport. Yet, you compete in a field with other athletes or other individuals. So to me, one element that it's extremely important to not to left out is the etiquette, which is respect. The etiquette in sports is how politely and how not only politely, in how you carry or handle yourself in the field. And if it's a team sport, obviously with your teammates or with the opponent team. I want to kind of dive a little bit more onto each one. Resistance. Resistance may have even different layers to it, but resistance is to learn to put up with pain, to put up with the boredom of the solitude. It's a saying out there that athletes or champions are made alone, in your lonely days of training or practice. And it's very not sexy in the sense that many, many times training doesn't make you feel $1 million in a way that you would expect it to be. Yes, of course, you have dopamine and all the endorphins high, but that's a different $1 million feeling that we also will address. Repetition. It's not done in a quick fix, as we were saying, mental health. It's done by repetition. It's done by going out every single time that you are told to go out, or your training schedule tells you to go out, or your coach tells you to go out, or your plan. So it's repeating it day after day after day, whether you like it or not, whether you feel like doing it or not. It doesn't really matter how you feel. You have to go and do it. Frustration. The frustration comes from days that you don't perform at your peak when you are planning to. The frustration of seeing that your numbers from these wearables, these ones, don't match the effort. Obviously, rationalizing it can be a bad night sleep, or nutrition failed, or hydration fail, or your mental state that day is not in the right place. So just tolerate frustration and keep it moving. Tomorrow is another day. You fall, you stand up. It's not about the fall, it's about how you stand up again and go. Setbacks. For years that I said that I'm an endurance athlete, I had plenty of setbacks. And a setback could be from the flu, or another type of illness, or non-expected life situation that stops you from your training or your racing. Happens, believe me. And also it can be an accident, which I collected a few along those years of racing and training. And you accept it, you do radical acceptance, which we will speak in the mental health piece. And that I already am telling you how there is a bridge that crosses over all the time between the mental health, the mindset, and the athletic piece, or the endurance piece, or the training piece, or the racing. Whatever you do helps. It's absolutely connected. It's body and mind connection. Dedication. If we choose a path, the least we can do on the name of respect of our own choices is to be dedicated, the post-dedication to it, from the beginning till the end, wherever the end might be, wherever we declare the end or the end happens. Whatever that is, we just need to show commitment and dedication. Patience. There is no quick fix. We just said before, there is no quick speeding up processes. Everything takes time. This is why this is the long game. So patience is much quality. If you think you have no patience, or you are as your personality, you feel you do not have much patience, you are better off working on that to install that belief, uninstall the belief from your belief system that you are impatient, period, and put in there the patience chip. The patience will be helpful for everything when you want to accomplish anything in your life. It is an investment, and it's not a sprint race, it's a marathon, or basically probably more an ultra marathon. How we integrate all these elements, what this means for our daily life, for our relationships, as for parenting, and for self-expectations. All these elements that I described before in daily life, as soon as we wake up, we can face different situations that may try or could shift our energy, shift our mood, shift our attention. And we want to do what it's out there very common now to talk about signal versus noise. So we want to learn, if we don't know already very well, to cancel the noise and stay signal, stay focused on our goals, focus on what day is going to be about, planned before. If you are follow the flow and you don't want to plan your day, that's great too. So what was your intention for that day following the flow of the day? Both are very legit. I'm more of a to-do list planner, flexible, not regimented to flexible, but I would say that works for me. That's why probably able to do the type of practice in psychology, very busy always, and my plan the competitions, which obviously requires all the training previous, which tends to be usually a year in advance. For next year, what are we, January? For next year, New York City Marathon, November 1st, sooner than later, I start working on the foundation. The foundation for me as an athlete, it's actually pretty much never stops the training. You dim the volume, but you're still always training. That's me. And that is in life too, right? We dim the volume of things in order to plan and get to where we want to get. Relationships, how all this works in the relationships. This will be another full podcast, obviously, another episode. Yet in relationships, how about patience? How about dedication? How about humility? How about tolerating setbacks and making space for them? How about frustration? And how about repetition? How about resistance? And we can go on and on and on with more qualities that relationships must have from our end, hopefully from whoever our relationship is with, whether it's a partner, husband, wife, children, extended family, friends, colleagues, fellow athletes, and on. Our entire spectrum of relationships. Patience. I think patience is a virtue. Not only at the beginning, this is a lifelong choice, so it's forever. All of the qualities that go in mental health or sports apply to relationships to the fullest. Self-expectations, that is also a total big animal for another episode. Self-expectations and expectations, but since we are talking about ourselves, the self-expectations, as I shared before, my own experience with my first coach, who basically put me down to reality when he said, if you expect to be a star athlete competing in the field and winning and podiuming and medals and cups and stuff like that, it will take 10 years. So the self-expectations is bringing ourselves to reality when we set up a goal, and any goal, and how much time we meet somebody. Okay, in how much time I want to marry this person. I see, these are examples that I see in my own practice, and I'm not talking in particular about anybody specifically. It's across the board, also using that same expression I used before. 42 years in practice, full time, gave me many, many times the similar example. So maybe because also has to do with the generational thing. But for example, how much time you give yourself and your potential partner to get to know each other, that requires patience. Dedication, whatever you give and dedicate your full attention and your energy and your time and everything you got to in this case, obviously relationships, but the self-expectations. You need to be able to tolerate your setbacks. There is being somewhere along the line a reel that says we expect life to be a straight line, and really life is like a maze of strings, like people that knit. Not sure what's the exact word for that. So self-expectations is pretty much setting yourself for success, which is a word that I don't use often. Yet, self-expectations is at least avoiding also to set yourself up for failure. We don't want that in anything we embrace to do in life. We really want to do well. I will skip the word success. We want to do well. We want to get to the goal that we set up. I want to actually maybe reflect here, posing a question for you guys, for everybody. Not you guys, for everybody. Where in your life are you asking for speed when what is needed is patience and practice? I really would like to have you think about this one, because it has to do with everything we mentioned before, right? It's like, are we being impatient? Are we trying to fast forward something? Yes. I want to mention something about fast forwarding, which also is an expression I use a lot in my practice. There is that concept about anxiety-driven thought process. That doesn't do any favors to us. The anxiety-driven thought process is a thing. And when I catch people having that tendency, I go, let's get the remote control. Let's not fast forward. We need to stay here. Do not fast forward, because everything can go that way or that way, 50%, 50%. And sometimes the anxiety-driven thought process in certain people also brings them to an anxious state of mind, state of mind, of things that they were never going to happen. Chances are that it's all in our minds, coming also from the upbringing that I always say the upbringing shape us, but it's not a sentence. We can rewire our brain as we should rewire our brains along the way to get rid of habits or things that we carry for a long time that don't have a real good use for us in the current circumstances in life for the future. The anxiety, it's part of the culture, which I mentioned before. And it's coming from, we may, older people with, more years in these, more seasons, we didn't see so much anxiety as we see today. And I wouldn't want to start with what are the elements in these days that we didn't have. Yes, sure. Let me say it. Social media, scrolling, a lot of elements that they weren't there before. And I will give an example that I usually also give to people. And it's when we went to school, middle school, that it's kind of boot camp, and high school, you're a little more maybe relaxed, but let's say middle school. And I would include high school. Without phones, social media, or anything, we went there, we got in trouble, or we fought with our friends, or there was a situation. Whatever happened was not out there in the world. Nobody else but you and the other person or the other group knew about. And you had to reflect, go home, reflect by yourself on it, maybe with friends or family or siblings if you had, or your dolls, whatever you had to, in my case, because I have a personal story about my dolls, but I will share. And reflect on everything on your own, maybe consulting with people that will want to give you advice or an opinion. But it was now nowhere to go to find answers. It was no TikTok, was not Google, no AI, obviously, and not Pinterest. No, I'm trying to mention as much as I remember going back, where did these things started? And you had to do it on your own. A funny, cute story when I was a very young kid, maybe I can't say the age, but I remember that when I was reprimanded, severely reprimanded, or got in a situation that I was annoyed or I was angry, I was upset. I was told that I used to go to my room, close the door, and yell the heck out of my dolls. Maybe it was some slapping going on. Maybe I wouldn't deny nor accept that. But it was a lot of unloading whatever the emotion was on those poor dolls or a line in my shelves. So I thought it was a cute story to share. So basically, for this one, I want to end by how upbringing becomes inner limitations. Yes, I would like to dive into that at some point, sooner than later. I would like to touch upon mental toughness versus emotional avoidance. A good one. Consistency, discipline, and change. We touch upon that a little bit today. Relationship as psychological training. The body under load. What fatigue reveals. The body under fatigue and the mind under fatigue. Generational shifts, we just touched upon this. And psychology and resiliency. This will talk with my guests soon, very soon. Yes, very soon. Oh, there is a gem that I want to throw in here. Motivation is unreliable. practice is. Most of the days and in my practice, people tell me, even happened today, this morning, I need to find the motivation to do this. And I'm like, no, you need to practice what you will want to do, and the motivation will come after you see what happens. I personally truly believe motivation is instilled by our own moving. And obviously, living intentionally in a distracted world. And that's what I said before, is that as soon as we wake up, we could be diverted from our whatever we wanted the day to be. And we need to live intentionally. We need to stay on course in our lane. This is probably the foundation for things we are going to be working, building trust over time. And this, I want to say, guys, or everybody, friends, this is my life's work, as my professional life's work and my athletic life's work. I'm an athlete since very young age. Actually, I was, as a kid, right, sent to different sports. So I learned what I needed to learn as a kid. Then growing up, I decided to become the runner, then the swimmer, the runner. And then 25 years ago, decided to become an Ironman. And I guess you can see the Ironman thing. And it's the staple in my existence, move your body and knowing and recognizing the benefits of that. So this is my lifelong experience in those domains. And I'm proud to say I am here, decided to put it for you. I'm not lecturing anybody. I'm conveying messages, conveying the tools that I know, the secrets. I don't need to keep secrets. I'm here not to keep secrets, to give it to you. So thank you for your attention. If you want to look at my whatever I'm doing, you could go to patriciahealth.com. That's my website. But it's just if you are curious, who is this woman today starting a podcast and why is she doing this? And you'll see why. Thank you, thank you, thank you.